All right, all right, all right. And a yeehaw and a howdy do. Put your pistols in the air. Ride 'em, Cowboys. This is episode number 162 of the Toilets to Titles podcast. This evening, we're talking Frankenstank Listener League 2022. We have a special guest this evening. But before I pass it off to that special guest, everybody, you can follow me on the Twitter at Coach Sheps. The show's handle is on the Twitter at Toilets to Titles. And with me, wearing that glorious cowboy hat with all those trophies behind him, which I think are a good omen, is my main man Justin Stevens at JustinFF_. Justin, what's cooking?
Hey, what's going on, Johnny? So so the Cowboys hat is to honor your Cowboys and their big win last night, and the trophies back here are just a stack of all of them that we have ready to roll for all of the consecutive Frankenstank victories for our guest tonight that he's about to rake in over the next 50 or 60 years. So so that's what the trophies are for.
I love it. And I guess that's a hell of an intro right there, man. We got a winner amongst us. This is the third. This is the third Frankenstank Listener League. This is the biggest yet. We plan on getting bigger. And Chris, that's a little teaser. He's going to help us decide on a little something that he earned. But this was the biggest, man. And without further ado, it's Chris Hind. It's at Is This Just FF on the Twitter. Chris, we are happy to have you, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good, man. Happy to be here. Looking forward to talking Frank with you guys.
We are frankly talking Frank, and we are looking forward to it as well. This has been a long time coming. You know, we had some playoff football thrown in there, but with this league being such an undertaking, and if you're listening, I'm sure you've been with us for a while, and if you're new, go back and just search Toilets to Titles Frankenstank. We're going to get into it a little further later. But, if you want to kind of get a recap before you listen to this episode, you could find our episode earlier, in the last off season, where we discussed Frankenstank and some of the rules we put in there and anything. But this is a monster. Before we get into this monster, though, Chris, you got a lot going on in the fantasy community. You got some gambling. Where can everybody find your work, and where do you recommend they subscribe, whatever? How do they find you?
Well, yeah, so my Twitter I share with one of my pals back home in England. So we do a little bit of chat about fantasy football on the American side, NFL, just really set it up to try and get all my friends back home in England interested in the NFL, right? Having a fantasy aspect. We have like a 6-team home league, which I set up as just, 5 of my pals just playing for a little bit of money. Keeps them interested, gives them something to look at, like they're all watching throughout the season, just adds a little bit of extra to it. But we also do it on the soccer side. The English Premier League has their own version of fantasy football. So, we talk about that as well. And it's called fantasy football as well back in the UK. So we set that up, we talk about that, and it's kind of escalated into, we provided our insights into betting on both sports. And I've kind of moved in to a bit more of a role. I kind of doing a little bit of the gambling stuff with Roto Heat. Now, we've launched our own YouTube channel, which is just doing kind of on the sports betting stuff. So that's NFL focused. There's a lot of soccer stuff in there, but it's going to expand more into the basketball and baseball when that season comes back around. So yeah, just trying to dive into as much of the gambling stuff as I can. Like, I've been fortunate, probably not the right word, but I've been gambling since I was 18, so almost 20 years now. Like, in the UK, it was obviously fully legal to gamble on spin. Yeah, it's opening up more and more now. Every month seems like we're getting closer to more and more of the states having access to it, more and more sports coming out, more and more lines on there. So yeah, just it's a huge for and the crossover between fantasy football and the sports betting side is huge.
Yeah, man.
If you're playing DFS and that you're going to pick whoever it might be, like to go over, to get 7 or 8 catches, you can bet on that now for the most part. So, if you can make money on both it, then it's a huge thing, obviously.
Yeah, man. So who's like, all right, fantasy football in the UK? We're talking your UK football, not American football. Who are the top three? Who's like the Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, like Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase? Who are those cats? I'm assuming Erling Haaland, my guy, has to be up there, but I don't know too many other names
Haaland,
outside of that.
So Haaland is number one. Everyone in my league picked Haaland. Like, the difference is that you can pick the same players. So you basically just given a salary cap of, say, everyone's given a value. So you got $100 million to build your squad, but everyone has a value. So everyone could theoretically end up with the same 15 players, but that's where you get to see everyone else is playing every week, and you then make adjustments to have those players in there that are really going to be the difference makers. But yeah, Erling Haaland at the start of the season, everyone wanted him, so I kind of went the other way, and I was like, let me take Alvarez just in case Haaland takes a couple of weeks to get himself ready. I paid the price for it. I'm 100 points behind, and that was basically because he, scored a stupid amount of goals straight off the bat. But yeah, he would be good Frank next year.
Do you watch Ted Lasso?
But I have watched Ted Lasso, yes.
So like how they're always hanging out in that pub, and he comes in and everyone kind of curses him off, and they grow on him. But anyway, I imagine that the live drafts for the soccer leagues, or the football, as you'd call it, fantasy leagues over there in England, are all performed in pubs like that. And that excites me. And I wish I had an opportunity to do that. Yeah. That's, man, a different lifestyle. That's excellent.
I think it's definitely something. Yeah. Yeah. The pub aspect of stuff is definitely missing in America for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it, man. That's it. Excellent. Well, that's it. That's an excellent intro. We're going to talk about some gambling in a little bit before we get into the Frankenstank discussion. But I do want to let everybody know, if you're watching on YouTube, it'd be greatly appreciated. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you're notified every time we go live. If you have anything to say about anything we're talking about on the show, you can throw us a comment. Heck, if you want to get into Frankenstank 2023, throw us a comment, throw us a like, throw us a subscribe, and then throw us a 5-star Apple Podcast review. If you throw us a 5-star Apple Podcast review, you'll get in Frankenstank. But if it's good enough, if it's like a 5-star Apple Podcast review, like beautiful, man, and it really sells the show, you might even get in for free. That's like a $25 value. So you cannot beat that. Apple Podcast, throw us a 5-star review. Stay tuned with Toilets Titles all off season, regardless of how you listen. Podbean, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Apple, whatever. There's tons of different things. Google Play, whatever. However you're listening to us, stay tuned. We're heading to Mobile. We're going to be covering all the Senior Bowl out there. We got the show on the clock. We're talking NFL draft. We start that Thursday. Me, Nino, KT. We're going to have Matt Waldman on. We're going to have Joe C, and Joe I. If you're Giants fans, which I'm not going to be tuning in. But they're going to have a Giants show weekly on Wednesdays. And then everything else is just kind of going to continue, man. So it's Titles Tuesdays. We're going to have P2P, head-to-head. We're also going to start a new show. It's called the Between Two Urinals, and that starts this Saturday. So anybody, if you're listening and you want to debate, throw us a DM, email us, toiletsandtitles@gmail.com. If you have access to a camera, a microphone, you got something to debate, we can get you on that show. It's pre-recorded too, so we can work around your schedule. It's only 15 minutes long. We would love to have you debate. Justin, you got something to say about that, my friend? Go ahead.
I was going to say, I am in the minority in a couple of aspects when it comes to this industry. I'm one of the few that still hold on strong that redraft is far better than dynasty, and that non-PPR is far better than PPR. So if you want to come on and argue with me directly, you're more than welcome to come on and argue. Just let us know. And also, I was kind of wishing, John, that you actually were the one with this cowboy hat. Yeah. Because I feel like this cowboy hat would match a lot better with your T-shirt.
Oh, speaking of which, that's a heck of a tie-in, my friend. We have a new affiliate. We're affiliated with Amazon.com. If you want to get on the website, you want to buy your Amazon products on there, no markup. It helps the show. Go on the site, Fanatics.com. You want to buy some NFL gear, some autographs, some jerseys, some hats, whatever. You can go to toiletstitles.com. You can find their link. And then we just got affiliated with Homage, HOMAG.com, HOMAGE.com. Check them out. They got tons of NFL gear. It is awesome. I got a Dallas Cowboys sweatshirt. It is super comfortable, man. And I also got this sweet NFL Jam t-shirt. If you're listening at home, you don't get to see it, but it's like a play on the retro NBA Jam. It's got Trayvon Diggs and Micah Parsons on there. It's awesome, man. So I really love rocking this shirt. So go check that out. You can go to their site through our site, toiletstotitles.com. So we kind of teased it a little bit. Chris, I know we're going to be talking about Frankenstank, but we do want to discuss a little bit round one of the NFL playoffs. So I'm going to pass it to you first. You're the guest. What are your overall thoughts of the first round of the NFL playoffs? What are some props or some bets that you might have played this weekend that you thought were going to play out and either they hit or they didn't? So go ahead and drop that on us.
Well, I think the big one, first off, was the Bills and Dolphins. I think, that was supposed to be a very one-sided affair. It kind of started that way. A lot of people were taking the spread, Bills to blow out the Dolphins. I mean, I think it all changed. Like, we didn't expect Josh Allen to throw any interceptions in the playoffs, let alone 2 or 3 in the first half. And I think that swung the momentum greatly. Dolphins did great to get back in the game. So that one didn't go as planned. And I think if anyone was planning on the Dolphins scoring, it was going to be Tyreek Hill that was going to get in to the end zone. So that one didn't quite, I think that kind of busted a lot of parlays, certainly on the spread betting side, on game one. But everything else kind of, didn't necessarily go as planned, but everything was a high scoring game. And I think that's the playoffs, right? Like, it's win or go home. So there's none of this being cautious. The offenses are going out there to put the points up on the board. They're trying to score touchdowns
and extra points.
Which you guys could probably. The thing is, the funny thing about that is, I literally was saying to someone yesterday, he missed the first one, and I said he's only missed like 4 all year. Guy's not missing 2 in a row, and then I was like, okay, now we've got to go the other way. But I mean, fortunately, you can't bet on that, right? You did you take the field goals? You're a big field goal better, right?
Yeah, man. I did take it in that one. I missed that, but I hit it. I usually pick and choose. So I'd like next year maybe I'll track it. So I'd say that the over is usually the over under is 3.5 or 2.5, and I'd say I probably went 70-30 with the amount of times this year I bet. That's a fun one for me. There's always, I feel like, more than 3.5 field goals. Go ahead, Justin.
So I do know that you posted, John, in the Patreon chat on Discord, which you guys are welcome to come and support us, patreon.com/toiletstitles. But you posted in there that you were going to take the over 2.5 for the Seahawks and 49ers on field goals. And they got that in the first half. So yeah, that one was pretty nice.
Yeah, that was good. So usually I hit on that. And I also, not to toot my own horn, I picked Dalton Schultz first touchdown. So that was a big hit. So that's another thing.
That one had to be big.
Oh, that was like, I don't even know. I think I might have posted it in there as well, but I only put like $15 down. I want to say it was like 145. I won for that, which is a good payout. Yeah. But keep going, Chris. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. So I think that was, the Giants game. I like the Giants. I mean, I'm in New York, so kind of by default, kind of a borderline Giants fan.
How far are you from Frank Pepe's Pizza?
Probably a decent trek. I'm on Long Island, so in Nassau County on Long Island. So I'm like 30 minutes outside Manhattan. Okay. So
all right.
But yeah, so I've been to MetLife a couple of times, watched a couple of Giants games, a couple of Jets games. So kind of always rooting for the Giants. And Saquon Barkley, obviously, like, he's one of my favorite players in the league. I liked him to score a touchdown. He got 2. I think he's going to be.
Did you start him in the fantasy league, playoff league?
Yeah.
So did I.
Yeah. So, so that was a good one. That paid out. one that didn't, the Jags. I had Travis Etienne. Thought they were gonna do well, which obviously second half they did, but I thought they were gonna run the ball a lot more. But game script plays a huge amount into this, you know.
I saved Travis Etienne, and I'm going to play him this week. So we're talking about, we have a playoff fantasy football league through Toilets to Titles. I believe it was $15 a person, and we have like 60 guys in there. Well, we have guys and girls, so I don't know the ratio, but there's guys and girls in there. And my son, he started Trevor Lawrence, and he had to go to bed, and this was the start of the week. And this kid's thinking, you know, this is only the second fantasy thing he's ever done. He did it last year. He did okay. But this year he's a lot more knowledgeable. And this was the first year where I opened up the site and he told me this. It wasn't like, hey, here's some reasoning. You know, here's what I think the matchup's going to do. It was more so, here's the games. Pick a quarterback. So he started Trevor Lawrence. And then when I woke him up the next morning, he was like -5 points when he went to bed. And he wakes up and he's 30 points. So what a huge change of events. Trevor Lawrence, you got to tip your cap to that kid. Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, both of them, it was their first time playing in a playoff game, right? This kid throws 3 interceptions, 4 interceptions. You know, he did just as bad as Brett Maher did, but it was more so throwing interceptions, not kicking field goals, and he stuck with it. And then what do you do after the win? He goes out to Waffle House. You know, he celebrates like a real Jacksonville man. And then you got Joey Bosa on the other side, throwing his helmet, all pissed off. I kind of feel like Joey Bosa's on the way out. He got himself in trouble there. They bring in Khalil Mack. You know, if they're changing the guard a little bit, they're gonna want to point fingers at somebody. They already cut a few coaches. You know, they're keeping Staley, right? So I think Bosa might be on the way out. And if I'm Jerry Jones, I'm picking up the phone because I would love to have Joey Bosa on the other side of Micah Parsons. I would absolutely love it. That dude's a dog.
Yeah, I think they all are, all the Bosas, right?
Man, Nick
you'd
Bosa's
want any of them. Yeah,
superhumans.
Yeah, they're the next generation of Watt brothers.
Yeah, and then as far as the Giants-Vikings games goes, I was surprised how many crossing routes they were layering crossing routes. I don't know the terminology for it, but they were running a deep cross and a shallow cross. And these the Vikings had absolutely zero answer. Players were crossing the field. Justin will remember this. The Colts used to do this all the time with Pierre Garçon. They'd cross, underneath somebody, and you'd give him the ball in space, and then he became a running back with the ball in his hands. And then you had, Darius Slayton and the Giants. The Vikings had absolutely no answer, and you have to hand it to Daniel Jones, man. He was lights out. This dude was spot on throwing lasers. Caps off to him. I don't want to talk too much about the playoffs. I know it's my fault because I set the show notes and I'm guiding the show. But Friday night, we're going to do another roundtable. I know Justin's going to be there, and the guys are going to be talking last week's playoffs, but mostly they're going to talk, next week's matchups. So we didn't take too much of their content, but I don't want to, I want to leave some content for them. So stay tuned. But yeah, I was super fired up for the Cowboys game. I wasn't expecting. And when you guys are talking about Chris, you mentioned it, the playoffs and high scores and everybody going for it. I like low scoring football. So everyone was pissed off after the first few Cowboys-Bucks drives, and I was getting more and more confident with each drive. Dak's off, whatever, but the defense was grinding, and they were hungry, and I almost feel like the first few possessions where Dak was off right away made the defense realize we need to dominate. And then when Dak started to click, the defense didn't change its mindset. They continued to try to dominate. And I think, obviously the Buccaneers, they ended up scoring 14 points, but really it was garbage time. And I'm happy because my playoff roster, I had Tom Brady going, I had Chris Godwin going. So I was welcoming those points. Go ahead, Justin.
And how about Sam Hubbard, hometown boy for the Cincinnati Bengals, grew up a Bengals fan, gets to pull off a 98-yard touchdown that big boys don't normally get to do, much less in the playoffs like that. So hats off to you.
Well, you tell us about that. We jumped right over that matchup, man. Ravens. Who was at the Ravens-Bengals game?
Yeah, I was there. I was I was able to actually make it to the game thanks to Kenny Bowe, a buddy of mine. But yeah, we got to see it live, and the whole way leading up to it, we're talking about the game. We're talking to the Bengals fans that were obviously super confident because right before that, a few hours before that, they announced that Tyler Huntley was going to be splitting time with Anthony Brown, who nobody knew. I don't know that Anthony Brown's parents know who he is at this point, but we never saw him on the field though. He never got a snap. It really was Huntley the whole way. Huntley actually played a pretty incredible game for a guy that was asked to come in and not lose the game for him. And up until that fumble, he really was doing everything that it took to win that game. So
how about J.K. Dobbins throwing him under the bus? Saying if the other quarterback was in, they would have won. That's like
I don't think that that's what he meant by that. I think his intent was to stand up for Lamar, but man, that sure is it definitely came off bad.
Yeah, man, that's got to burn. But
that wasn't on Huntley. I mean, now Harbaugh kind of threw him under the bus too. Or no, wait, it wasn't Harbaugh. I forget who it was. Somebody, it might have been Huntley himself actually, that said that the play was actually called for him to go under. And he made the split decision at the end, right before the ball was snapped, that he's going to go over. So had he went under, maybe he doesn't fumble, maybe he scores, maybe he doesn't, whatever. But he did make that decision. But I mean, if a guy's going to lead your team, if a guy's going to be your quarterback, you got to trust that he's going to make those decisions. And he thought it was what was best for his team. Like he didn't fumble it on purpose. I feel bad for him, but I feel really good about Hubbard, especially since I was there rooting for the Bengals. So
right. Right. Well, hey, Chris, where are you in the rankings of the Playoff Fantasy League after week 1?
Mid-teens.
All right. I think you like that. You like the carpet back, sandbag a little bit, and then you climb up. You want everybody to feel comfortable. You going to let us know a player or two that you're starting this week or what?
No. No, but I can, like, a couple of players I like if you're looking at props, like the guys that I think, you're looking for touchdowns this week. Christian McCaffrey, kind of obviously, like week in, week out. I know a couple of obviously we said that a few of the quarterbacks scored this weekend. I think, in the playoffs, these quarterbacks are doing everything they can to make sure that you're getting the 6 points. And so I like Josh Allen to maybe get in against the Bengals. And then, I mean, in the Eagles Giants game, you could take either of those guys, Jalen Hurts or Danny Dimes, to score a TD. I think that's where you're going to get the value. I think Jalen Hurts is going to go out with a lot to prove in this game. And also, I think, under the radar there, Boston Scott always scores TDs against the New York Giants. So I feel like I definitely took Boston Scott in a parlay the last time they played, and he was the last one I was waiting on to cash it, and he got his touchdown. So I think I'm going to have to run that back. And although as much as I want the Giants to win, I think the Eagles don't even I don't even think it necessarily is a close game. But
I think it's going to be close.
You reckon?
There's something. How long you been in New York for?
Only 3 years.
So there's something about New York. I don't know what it is. And I know the Giants aren't technically from New York. They're actually a Jersey team. But there's something about the tri-state area. And when the Giants get in the playoffs, it don't matter how good they are. It's like they just bottle some sort of energy and they play outside of themselves. And I don't think they're going to win, but I don't think they're going to get disrespected either. I think they're going to give Philly everything that they can handle. But Philly's a good team. Philly's done a great job building a roster this year. So, I think that's going to be an excellent game. All right. I'm going to let you know, I'm starting Deebo Samuel this week. I think Deebo he's last year crushed the Cowboys in the playoffs. And I think Deebo is going to do it again this week. So that's my pick. I'm also playing Christian McCaffrey. I'm having a hard time deciding between Bengals and Bills. I don't know which of those two teams I really think is going to advance, and I'm afraid to play them. because I want to leave them, available to move on. So that's going to be my tough decision. But I feel pretty confident about starting McCaffrey and Debo. Those are the only two I'm going to let you guys know. All right, again, check out TotsTitles.com. Check out our Patreon, patreon.com. /Toys Titles if you want to support the show. There's multiple tiers on there. We'd love to see you in the Discord chat. We got a lot of interesting chat. It also gets you into the Frankenstank League. All right. Go ahead, Justin.
I want to talk about my playoff team a little bit because
Tell me about your playoff team, baby.
I'm starting off a little bit behind you guys, and by
is this your roster? Is this on the computer?
As of right now, this is my roster. I'm
you're full transparency.
I'm laying it all out there. So I am. I'm going all out in the second round because I'm 40 points behind, and I tried to sandbag some good players in that first round for obvious reasons.
How far are you behind Emmett?
Right around 40 points. And that's the funny thing too. I was going to say Emmett is only 3 points ahead of you, John, but in his mind, he is kicking your ass.
Yeah,
he's
humble,
right?
Man. Emmett is like, I almost wish he'd be a little more, flagrant with it. He's very calm, cool, collected, and he's just happy to be here. Dad, I'm just happy to be here. But yeah, man, I'd be talking junk to him if I was beating him.
Oh yeah, you would.
Uh-huh.
But so I'm going all out. I'm going Josh Allen. I'm going Christian McCaffrey, Jamar Chase. Really wish I could have taken advantage of Justin Jefferson, but you win, you lose. George Kittle, so Nick Bosa, so it's all out there for you guys right there. So do with it what you want, but you don't really have to worry about my team anyway.
All right, excellent. So now speaking of teams, we have Chris on, who was the most dominant team in the Frankenstank Listener League this season. It was 5 divisions, 12 teams a division. This thing was a monster. Rock, paper, scissors competition to decide the draft order for each division. We had 5 copies of each player. Chris, what division were you in?
Night of the Living Silent but Deadlies.
Oh, love that one. Yeah, so we have a lot of fun with the division names, and that's another teaser for what's coming up. But man, so what was it like? So take us through. So we have some questions on here. I want to know what your plan was going into the draft, but up until the draft, like, what was the process like for you getting in the league, trying to digest being in the league, the group chat, trying to navigate that, like trying to navigate your strategy? Kind of give us the pre-season, pre-Frankenstank mindset.
So I listened to the episode that you said that these guys could go back and listen to, and I'm going through and I was listening to it while I was working, and I'm getting through.
How crazy did it make me sound, that episode?
You do sound crazy to someone that doesn't know about it, but now I feel like if I listen to it back, I'll be like, oh, this all makes perfect sense.
Right.
But I kind of got halfway through it and I'm like, I'm not going to remember any of this in 2 weeks' time. So I went in and I was at my desktop. So I literally created myself a Word document, and I just went through and I was like, right, there's 5 divisions, like 16 roster spots. There's no trades. Like I'm writing stuff down. I even have it, like I'm looking at it now, like everything I wrote out that I got from that episode, I've then sat there and I was like, okay, so we're drafting this way. It's rookies only. So I'm like, who am I taking in the first round? Like, who am I getting? Like, if I'm early part of the draft, what's my strategy? If I'm late part of it, like what, that would really defined it for me. I was fortunate enough. I won the RPS for our division. So I also got to pick where I was going to go. And for me, my strategy was, rookies in redraft, do I trust any of them to win me a title? No. So I was like, I'm picking, like I went through the cards, and the cards, for anyone that doesn't know, is by far my favorite part of this entire league. Like it's just something that you do not have anything even close to it in any other version of fantasy football. And I went through, you guys went through the cards, and that was the best part of the, it's nice to know the ins and outs of all of that other stuff. But when it gets down to it, like this is the difference maker for me. And I was like, that's the card I want. Yeah, like you're going through the cards and I'm like, how would each of these cards work out for me? And I was like, if I'm anywhere, I knew at that point that I'd won the RPS. So I was like, I'm taking the Ghostbuster card. Like that's pick number one. Like, where do I put myself in the draft to make sure I guarantee to get that card?
Before you mention the Ghostbuster card, let's mention that when you won and you picked your draft spot, we started, once we figured out we were going to be drafting in the same spot in different divisions, we started that chat.
Yep.
And we were conversing about strategies. And I was in Canton. And I feel like the guys talked me into that Ghostbuster card because I was going to go in a different direction. And then, they had like power ranked the cards and I was going to wait on a card. So now continue. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I looked at it and I was like, all the other cards are useful. But I was like, if you're winning games, and obviously like the whole point of this league, like you kind of have to start well. There's no way that you can start off losing your first 2 or 3 games because your 2 or 3 best players are now gone. Like, to then win games, you're hoping that you're playing against other teams that have started badly, and you could get very lucky. So to start well, it's like the last thing you want to do is have a card played against you off the bat. So the Ghostbuster card for me, it was attacking via defense, right? Like, it meant that no one was going to waste their card in the first 3 or 4 weeks against me, because I was just going to use that back against them to nullify their card. So it was kind of a waste. And that was it. I was like, I put myself in at 102. Really, because I'd kind of posted in our division. So we had the divisional chats, right? I posted in there and kind of jokingly said, like half joking, and said, if anyone wants 101, let me know. Like, I'm open to bribery. Like, I'd won the RPS, so someone make me an offer. If you want 101, let me know. Only one person did. That person was Alex. He told me, I was like, okay, who are you taking? If you go 101, who are you taking? If he told me he was taking the Ghostbuster card, he wouldn't have got the 101. Like, he was honest. He told me he was going to take Breece Hall. I was like, great, you can have the 101. Like, that's simple. You asked, you can have it. Like, I don't need it if you're taking someone that I'm not going to take.
There was such a debate between cards and rookies.
Yeah.
In the house in Canton, in the Toilets to Titles house. And we were almost, those of us who ended up going cards early were almost poo-pooed.
Yeah.
So to say, everyone thought these rookies were going to come on and be world beaters because of some of the rookies in the past, like Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. And even though Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave had good seasons, Pickens was decent at times. Breece Hall was good until he got hurt. There was no Jamar Chase. There was no Justin Jefferson. So that card was super valuable. Just nobody played. I went with the Ghostbuster card as well.
Yeah, me
and
too.
Nobody played a card against me all year because this card protected me. Now, there are 12 cards. Well, there were 12 cards in last year's league. So there were. Things are changing. But each card you can go and see on the site. And there's one version of each card per division. And if it doesn't get drafted, poof, vamoose, it's gone. You can't pick them up. There's no free agent card pickup. So this year,
for now,
when I don't know if we're going to talk about all of it. I don't know if we're going to drop any of them, but I'm just going to tell you, with the more cards, there's going to be a lot more cards so there's going to be cards in this division that nobody drafted in that division. And it's going to add a lot of some twists and turns. So Justin, did you want to comment?
Yeah, so Steve and I are the ones that were really, really pushing it, and we kind of convinced you on it. And I had even said then, I said in Canton, that whoever wins this title will have drafted the Ghostbuster card. It's just that powerful. And then, like you guys said, I also drafted the Ghostbuster card, and I had it in the 9th pick, and I thought that was insane that it still fell to me. And every single week where I was facing a guy that had a card, I straight up sent them a message, hey, before you play your card, don't forget, I've got the Ghostbuster card, and I will stop it and just ruin both of our cards. And then they would respond with, oh, well, I guess I'm not going to use it this week. Like, I was just straight up with it. And then I even used it as a strategy later on because I wanted to drop my Ghostbuster card for the roster space. And a lot of people didn't take that into account because I noticed a lot of people, after they used their monster card, they did not go pick up another player to fill that roster space. But the last guy on my roster was that had a monster card was Matt, and I wasn't facing him for another 3 or 4 weeks. So I sent Matt a message and I was like, hey man, let me help you strategize when to play this card because it looks like you're just not playing it. So Matt and I started DMing back and forth. He used the monster card about 2 weeks before I had to play him. Then I knew I could just drop my monster card because nobody else was going to use theirs
What a
against me.
strategic manipulator.
That's what this league is all about, and that's why I love this league.
Yes. So Chris, you kind of went through your draft strategy, the chats, preparing for the league. What was it like in season? Things started flying, cards start getting played, players start getting stolen. What was your experience like during the actual season?
Well, my whole strategy, as you know, like, was I went wide receiver heavy with my team. I took a gamble on Tony Pollard late as RB1, and that kind of worked to my advantage. I was able to pick him up, and he was kind of my RB1 from week one. But my whole goal was, hey, like, first few weeks of the season, like, if I can pick up a couple of wins, I can pick up an RB1 from one of the teams I beat. It didn't necessarily play out that way. Like, I kind of went quite far into the season just kind of riding the guys that I had taken, Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase. I kind of was fortunate enough to go, get to a point where I was kind of 6-2, 7-2. I was sat in that third or fourth spot in the league, and I hadn't lost anyone major. I think I got Justin Herbert right at the beginning. He got taken from me early. So I was kind of in a position where I was like, hey, like, I ended up basically the end of the season. I literally went, like I said, I was taking the best player on the opposition team. Like, I wasn't really even at a point thinking, hey, what do I need to fill my roster? Like, I had a decent 4 wide receivers, but I then played against the team that had Justin Jefferson. I won the game, so there wasn't even a thought in my head to think, hey, like, I'm not going to take Jefferson. I was just taking the best player. And I was like, if I've got the best players, then like, they're scoring every week, even if they're on my bench, they're not scoring against me.
And then if they're on your bench, I think we had a similar strategy. I early on, I wanted to develop a strength and make it stronger. So wide receiver, I drafted heavy, but then I kept taking wide receivers. I took 2 or 3 of them that were very good, because now my thought process is I can have 1 or 2 on the bench. And then if I do lose, I still have a really good chance of winning next week. I didn't want to have any weakness. So I went from wide receiver, and then I went and made quarterback a strength. But Kyler Murray, I picked him up. I think I had Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, and then Kyler Murray ended up burning me. So that didn't work out. But still, make your strength the strength is continue to develop it so that your bench is strong. Don't just think about your starting lineup. That's a very good strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I obviously definitely did that with wide receiver. And like I say, I ended up being lucky. Like there was a huge part of luck that played into it. I mean, I was streaming tight ends for the most part. I had Dallas Goedert from the get-go. He got he got stolen from me right before he got placed on IR. So that wasn't the worst person in the world to have lost. Kind of got lucky with that. But yeah, it left me with no tight end. So I was kind of streaming those. I picked up Okonkwo from the Titans, like the week he kind of had 2 touchdowns, which was a massive help, obviously, very fortunate. And then I managed to pick up Juwan Johnson of the Saints, like when he went on a run. So I did get lucky with playing those guys. But honestly, at tight end, once I didn't get Travis Kelce, like everyone else is much of a muchness, really. Like every week, Gerald Everett, I had at some point was scoring some points. But I think that one for me, I did have the option of taking Travis Kelce later in the season, like when week 13 or 14, but I needed a quarterback at that point. It was super flex, and I was kind of playing a couple of games with just like one quarterback because I had Hurts was injured. So Yeah, I mean, yeah, I fully agree with what you're saying. Like, I went all in on wide receiver, and these guys, it paid off for me at the end of the day. So,
all right. So we got in season, we got preseason now. You have any gripes? You have any notes? Anything specific on the league? Any feelings? What is your overall thoughts?
I loved it. Like, I loved all aspects of it. Like, I think for me, the only bit that would have improved it even more was our own, and this is more of a gripe for my divisional chat. It was just very quiet in season. Yeah. Like, it was kind of, I was expecting, because of the monster aspect, the playing cards aspect, like Justin said, like that whole strategic element of, hey, I'm going to take your best player this weekend, you should probably leave him on the bench, kind of thing.
Right.
So that he does, like, I was expecting a little bit more of that in our group chats, and it was kind of very quiet. I know we were Night of the Silent but Deadlies, but it was very quiet in our divisional group chat. And
well,
that's the only thing that I would have said would have improved it.
My thoughts on that are, it's disappointing, but I'm hoping that, so this is year 3, and what was it, 12, 24, 36, 60 teams, and probably I'd say 14 people quit during the year, because your team gets, players get stolen, your team stinks, they quit. But they also don't look at the payouts, because we have payouts geared towards, we have ways that people who lose can win. So I'm hoping that as we grow as a show, this is where we just finished our 3rd season, as the following gets a little stronger, like I'm hoping by like year 4 or 5, the following gets stronger, the chats pick up, people a little more diehard, they're in it not just to win it, they're in it for the community aspect of it. So I completely understand, because I'm trying to grow that, and I'm hoping like over time it happens. But I do think, next year that the chat's got to step up. Go ahead, Justin.
So along those lines, Kyle Bellafuel, Hellboy, he won the first consolation tournament. The second consolation tournament came down to George and Jason, and they are not what do you call it? They're not authorized to win. So
because they're parts of Toilet's title. So yeah,
that's right. So it goes to it would be the Loch Ness Monster, because he scored more points in that round before the championship game. He won the second consolation tournament. There was another consolation tournament where Kankelsaurus Rex, which is Dynasty Coach A, came on one of our Cowboys shows. He won one of the consolation tournaments. So for all of you guys, I haven't forgotten about you. It's just a matter of logistics and timing and stuff, but we are going to get a shirt out to you guys. You guys are going to be in line with getting a free entry into next year's Frankenstank for sticking with us and playing along and that sort of stuff. So, and if you're not already Patreons, let me know. We'll get you signed up, and we will also reimburse your first month's Patreon as well, if you want to become a Patreon supporter as well. So, so you want to stick around in a league like this, because if for no other reason, it automatically gets you an invite into the next season, so you can try your hand again. Like, we're not going to invite those people back that dipped out on us.
Banned. Stamp. Banned. All right. So listen, Justin wrote this up perfectly. I'm going to read it for him. He's talking about the glory days of our youth, right? Your first goal, your first touchdown, your first kiss, your first car. How does the Frankenstank Championship, this trophy, how does it rank compared to those accomplishments in your lifetime?
All of those accomplishments I think you talked about, I think it comes above them. It probably only comes second to the birth of my daughter, to be honest. And I'm only saying that because my wife's sat outside and she can probably hear me. And if I said if I said it came above that, I'm saying it came above my wedding day. So I'm already going to be on the next flight back to England. But no, it was a lot like the playoffs. I don't want to think about like how many nights I sat in bed, just on my phone, just looking at who I potentially could be playing against.
Oh yeah, talk about the playoffs. Talk about the structure of the playoffs, please.
Well, so first round of the playoffs, I think I was 8th seed. So we had like the Royal Rumble free for all kind of top six scoring teams advance. And that I loved that aspect of, hey, like it's not a one-on-one. It's not like the worst seed against the best seed. It was literally just the top 6 scoring teams. And it turned out that, none of the guys that finished 3rd, 4th, 5th, I think I was seed 8, and I think I was the second highest seed that got through.
Yeah, it was 7, 8, 9, 10, and then like 2 of them that were low, like in the teens.
And I knew that at that point, I was like, I knew that I was the 4th highest seed left. So like in my head, I'm like, I haven't got a choice. Because the next round it then became like the top 3 seeds got to pick who they were playing against. So I'm like, one, if any of these guys pick to play against me, I don't get a choice. As long as they don't pick one another. But I'm sat there and I'm like, you know what? Like there was talk in the chat that you two at 1 and 2, you'd called him out, coach, right? You'd said, come and get me.
He called me. He called me out. And then that's why I told him, I ain't scared of you, B word. That's what I said.
And I was like, oh, hang on a second. If one chooses to play against 2, like I can see that as a strategy, get rid of him. But I was like, then that does mean I'm going to have a choice because I become 3rd pick. And I was like, so then I'm going through everyone else and I'm sat there and I'm like, who have they got compared to who I've got? Because at that point, you're not playing in the same division. So you're playing a lot of games against guys that have the same people on their roster as you. So there's that element of like, I was thinking about who are they going to take? Like, who are they going to play next week? Who are they playing? Like, if he plays his strongest, I'm thinking about what is his strongest team going to be? And then who is my strongest team? Like, am I going to win that game? And then, so there was that aspect of the whole picking scenario of like picking who you're playing, which is huge. But then it's, like I said, you're playing against a player, and it happened to me in at least 2 of the matchups where we had duplicate players, and I was like, do I play the same as the other guy, and then leave it to be just? And there's one in particular where I know I was playing against a team that had Travis Kelce, and I didn't, and I was like, we had like 4 or 5 of the same player. So I was like, if we both play that, it comes down to, but the differential is only going to be 4 people. And he's got Travis Kelce, and my tight end's going to nowhere near him for him. So I was like, I need to have a different, like more than 3 differentials, So he played, I think it ended up being like my quarterbacks at the time with Dak and Gardner Minshew, because I picked Minshew up when Hurts got injured. He played Dak and Minshew. And I was like, I'm just going to make the decision to not play Minshew and like just hope he doesn't do very well. And I think he scored like 30 points. But I was then at that point in time, I had a decent running back room. Like I had Josh Jacobs, I had Saquon Barkley. So I played both
off, probably.
Yeah. And that was it. Like I played Jacobs and Devontae Adams, and like they both went off. And I was like, there was that aspect of like I could have played safe and just went, let me play the same guys as him. But that, playing safe doesn't get you anywhere really, and certainly not in this tournament.
Love it, man. That is excellent. See, I challenged Uncle Steve, and that was for Lori. I did that for Lori. I was trying to take Uncle Steve out, and it backfired. He kicked my tail. But enough about last year. All right, we got some excellent coverage right there, Chris, on last season. You know that this season, when you win, we got 3 new divisions coming this year. So I've named 2 of them. And we have one. You get to name a division when you win. So have you thought about it? Do you have a name for us? What is one of the new divisions going to be called this year?
I do have a name. I've been thinking about this for the last 24 hours. Been back and forth on a few. But what I've settled on, the new division is going to be the Brasco of Bagul.
The Brasco? How do you spell it? You'll message it to me and I'll save it. But describe this.
But so Bagul is the character in Sinister. So the Ethan Hawke movie, guy basically, creepy, kind of like No Face, like Voldemort type character. Right. So he's Buggle, and a Brasco is, basically a restroom. But it's an English term. It's an Australian term, and I thought like add a bit of non-American flavor to it.
I love it.
It basically comes from the company. It was all of the toilets are made by Brass Company, so they all have Brass Co. written on them.
Yeah.
So that's where the term Brasco comes from.
So I've been thinking that it would be really cool to have an international flair where we have a division that's all an international division. I think this is perfect.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, Chris, you are moving to this division because you named it.
Yeah.
So regardless, like this is your division now. I created Creature of the Staff Bathroom. I moved on from Frankenstank. We got Phantom of the Porta Potty. I think that's where Justin is. Yep. So I know Justin's changed his name this year. Justin, it used to be the Phantom. So when you join this league, you got to pick a monster that's not already taken, and some monsters get taken and then they get let go. And I'm thinking that might be somewhere you're going, but I'm not 100% sure. But I've picked Wolfman coverage. We got some classics. We got some newbies. Would you have? Do you want to give us a little tease on where you're going next year?
I'm leaning heavily towards the Jigsaw because that's my personal favorite. Any of you that watch the Fun Day draft shows, that's even my logo is myself superimposed as Jigsaw
on the tricycle.
Well, on the little doll, the puppet on the tricycle. Yeah. But I also kind of want to wait until it all kind of shakes out and see exactly who is getting kicked out and no longer going to be a part of it and what team names are available. But I'm definitely going to change it up some because 3 years of Frankenstank, and this was the best season I've had yet, and it wasn't that great. So I think it's time to get something a little bit more intimidating than a dude with a half a mask at an opera.
Man, we have some changes we've been working on. Dude, you know what Emmett wanted to do for his 11th birthday? Emmett wanted to go see we took Emmett to see Phantom of the Opera. 11-year-old kid.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. We went and saw Phantom of the Opera. It was actually pretty good, man. The music's pretty good. We digged it. And then when we were in the city to see Phantom of the Opera, I also saw Alexis from Schitt's Creek. Excellent day. All right. That's how you roll down there. So we're making some changes next year. We're going to do an episode probably in like 2 to 3 months once we're done with draft season, where we're going to continue to brainstorm ideas. Chris, we'll be more than happy to have you on if you want to come back. You're the champ, so your input is really, it carries a lot of weight. We have a few cards that we're going to make some changes to. I'm going to drop a little teaser here. The Dracula card, there was a lot of conversation. So the way the Dracula card works is, let me see what it is. You can steal 20% of a player at the same position's points. So if you got Jamar Chase, he's got Justin Jefferson. Jamar Chase scores 8 points, and let's say Justin Jefferson scores 20. I believe that's 20% of that's 5 points. You take 5 points off him, you give 5 points to yourself. Everybody's saying a Dracula card should be much stronger. So there was a lot of back and forth about some of these things. So we're going to be making tweaks. So we're going to make the Dracula card a little bit stronger. We got a few other cards in the books, man. We probably are going to add 10 to 12 more cards, I would say, at least. And that way, there's each division, it's going to have its own flair. Justin, do you have anything to say about that? Go ahead.
I will throw out a teaser as well, that there were some ideas kicked around, and we'll talk about it more on that episode. But to kind of help out the guys that start off really bad, that have several players stolen early, kind of as a reward for sticking with us, maybe the potential of a bonus card given to the bottom two teams or something. But that also might entice some players to kind of tank a couple weeks too, which would change it up as well. So which is good in this league. So it's definitely something that we're considering as well. So,
well, being Chris is from England or London, and he knows the footy, he knows the soccer, and we're thinking about doing a relegation system.
Okay.
Which is something that comes from over there, where if you lose, this is going to be super complicated. This is going to be very complicated to do on my fantasy league. I don't know how the hell we're going to do it, but I just shoot ideas out there and we figure it out. That's what we do. But to kind of make it so people don't quit, you don't run into a powerhouse after you have been beaten, you lose a player or two. If you go 0-2 the first 2 weeks, drop you down into a certain conference where if you win your next game, we're going to have created players that you can win, created monsters that you can pick up, put this player on your roster, and it is guaranteed to give you X amount of points every week. You can't trade that player, but now that you've lost 2 players, we can give you a player who's going to score 20 points a week or 25 points a week. So we're going to try to, man, this is always going to be a work in progress, and we are working on some things, but I think this relegation system and these created players that Justin was talking about, these created monsters, I think this could entice people to stick around, and it would be very exciting to see somebody go into the losers bracket, come out and win.
And I think that next Frankenstank episode, we're going to have to make sure that P2P or H2H isn't coming on after us.
Yeah.
I feel like it's going to be like a 3-hour show. We might have to break it up into 2 episodes.
So listen, so last year I was like fixated. So this is how the monster cards were created. You probably heard this, but if you're listening at home, and we're going to wrap this up, but I was very fixated on bonuses. I wanted crazy bonuses. I wanted wide receivers. Like if anybody other than a quarterback threw a touchdown pass, I wanted it not only to give you points this week, I wanted you to start with points next week. Like I wanted you to start next week's game up 50 points because and the guys had to talk me off of that. They're like, no, we can't do that. That's ridiculous. And then they're like, what if we do something like this? And they kind of mentioned something that was of the same idea of a card. And I don't think they meant for it to go down the path it went down. But then I was like, yes, we will do cards. We will, and so that's why it could go 3 hours, because once we get going, it's hard to say when we'll stop and what exactly we will stop on. But Justin, should I tell everybody what the other 2 divisions are going to be called?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Or should we tease it?
Now let's do it. It's 56 minutes in. How many people you think stuck around? All right. So, all right. The other 2 divisions, you heard Chris's division, the bidet of Frankenstank. It's only right. Frankenstank, he's probably been waiting for the bidet. I mean, it's play on the bride of Frankenstank, clearly, but right. It's only right, man. And the mummy's toot. So
because we're 6.
Yes. So, but those are good, man. Like Creature of the Staff, Bathroom, the Mummy's Tooth, the Bidet of Frankenstein, it all rolls. And then the Ball Co of whatever that dude's name is. What is it?
Yeah. It is it's the Nebrasco of Bagul.
Nebraska. Bagul.
The Nebrasco
all right, man.
Of Bagul. Yeah.
Excellent. All right, Chris, once again, thanks again for joining us, man. This was absolutely incredible. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, honestly. There wasn't a lot of action in my division chat either, but me and you, and then there was somebody I think who was in our chat and quit. So there were 3 of us in the 102, and then it was down to just us 2. And I feel like we talked strategy. It was like one-on-one strategy all season. So I appreciate that. Hopefully we end up in the same draft spot next year. But once again, tell everybody where they can find you, what you're working on, and what you got coming up.
Yeah, so on Twitter, is this just FF? If you're in any gambling discords, just look out for Iceman 1013. That's me. Posting plays. I'm in a lot of them. We'll be posting plays on Twitter as well, certainly for the upcoming playoff games. But yeah, it's not going to stop. The gambling will, NFL season might stop, but the soccer season is still going. MLS starting up again. Had a good run on MLS last season, so looking forward to that kicking off again. But yeah, I'll be there with baseball, basketball. We're about the halfway point, so pushing that into the playoffs.
Man,
but yeah,
next year
we'll be on Twitter.
With you in Long Island, you got to come out to Canton next year, man. We can meet up. We could road trip together. Think about it.
It's definitely an option, I think.
Yeah.
Definitely something we can talk about for sure.
Man, the champ, man. We got to get the champ out in Canton, because that's usually the draft starts in Canton.
And And I'm really going to try to push for at least one live draft in Canton, by
Yes.
the way. And I want to do it at that graveyard that we found close to Canton, where there is a headstone of a guy actually named Frankenstein.
Yes. Very. Yeah.
I
Has to be- has to
don't
happen.
think that that's disrespectful at all. Like, if I'm that dude, I'm enjoying somebody coming to my grave decades later to have a party.
Yeah. Have a party.
Not me.
So last year, so the logistics of trying to get a live draft will be difficult, but I think we're stronger. Our foundation at Toilets to Titles is stronger than it's ever been. And I think we can handle that, but it's going to take a lot of, if you're listening, if you're in the league, it's going to take a lot of, hey, yes, I will be there. Hey, yes, I'm willing to do something from these hours to these hours, because there's a lot going on. But this is all stuff we could talk about right now. Let's just celebrate the champ. All right. Mumra St. Brown. How is it pronounced? I always thought it's Mumra. It's Mumra St. Brown.
Yeah, that's it. Mumra.
Mumra.
Yeah.
Mumra. I mean, I don't even think we mentioned your
Mumra.
team name all episode, and that's it. That's the most important thing, man. Picking your monster. Excellent. And next year, I think we're going to do like a tournament before the season, brackets of team names, and we got all sorts of things going on. But whatever, stay tuned. We got head-to-head coming up next. Jared Gray, Clutch Russ, Nino Brown, and then, like I said, Thursday night we got On the Clock. Wednesday night, if you're Giants fans, Joe I and Joe C are going to be on there. Friday night we got P2P. Saturday we're going to have the first episode of Between Two Urinals, where we're going to have Mike D. We're going to have George debating. Friday night we're going to be talking Roundtable Playoff Edition, and those episodes are a lot of fun. Stay with Toilets to Titles. Subscribe, tune in, log in, comment, like, all that good stuff, and we'll see you later on. Take care.